For the past 7 years, I, 35 male, have been happily married to my 33 female wife, with whom I share a childless but fulfilling life. 2 years ago, she embarked on a new career path and has achieved great success. However, in the beginning, she often mentioned a co-worker, a man who she described as a jerk and disliked working with. As time went on, she seemed to soften her stance towards him and rarely spoke of him anymore. At first, I didn't think much of it and trusted my wife completely. Despite our marriage not being perfect, we had a strong bond and got along well. But now, I couldn't shake off this nagging feeling of concern in the back of my mind. As the days passed, I couldn't help but notice a shift in her behavior. She was glued to her phone, constantly texting and never letting it out of her sight. Her evenings and weekends were suddenly filled with mysterious plans. She became distant and reserved towards me, refusing any displays of affection. And then there were the lies. She told me multiple falsehoods about trivial things. However, the last one struck me the hardest. As she packed for a business trip, I couldn't help but notice a new bathing suit that was much more revealing than anything she had ever worn before. When I asked about it, she claimed to have ordered it online, which I later found out was false, and decided it wasn't appropriate for her Florida trip with colleagues. But despite her words, she still packed the provocative swimwear. As she was away, I could no longer bear the weight of all the lies in our relationship. The temptation to search through my wife's belongings grew too strong to resist. In her work bag, I found a drawing of her, a caricature perhaps, sketched on paper from a hotel. My heart sank as I recognized the handwriting on a post. It note with driving directions to her male co-worker's house. Desperate for answers, I combed through our bank statements and discovered that many times when she claimed to be at work, she was actually dining at various restaurants across the city. With mounting suspicions, I knew I had to dig deeper. My profession as a private investigator allowed me little hesitation in invading someone's privacy under such circumstances. After all, my ethical code justified it as a reasonable suspicion of wrongdoing. Without hesitation, I planted a GPS tracker in her car, a legal action in my state since the car is under my name. On a quiet Sunday evening, she returned from her trip and shared with me her plans to work at a cozy coffee shop and run some errands. The sound of her car never echoed within 1 mile of a Chipotle, yet upon her return she strolls in holding a Chipotle cup, confirming that she had indeed enjoyed a meal there. Then, on the following Tuesday, she mentioned having to attend a company dinner and would be working late until then. According to the GPS, she left work promptly at 3:20 p.m. and drove straight to the restaurant, where her car remained parked until 9 p.m. It was the events of the next Saturday that proved to be the final straw for me. We were supposed to watch my niece's tennis match at 8 a.m. She insisted on driving separately so that she could leave directly from the venue to go work at her beloved coffee shop. After the match ended, she casually informed me that she was heading to X coffee shop, sharing a few details about why it was her favorite spot. I bid her farewell and headed towards my vehicle. However, upon checking the GPS, I watched as she drove directly to a Comfort Inn motel. The pieces of the puzzle were starting to fall into place, revealing a bigger picture than I could have ever imagined. I carefully pulled into the Comfort Inn's parking lot, my heart racing as I waited for confirmation that she was actually inside and not lingering in her car. With trembling fingers, I dialed her number from the lobby and asked how the coffee at X shop was. Her response was nonchalant. Good, why? But my stomach dropped at the thought of her being there with someone else. Swallowing hard, I only managed to say, Come down here so we can get this over with." When she finally appeared, she looked nervous but determined. "Walking towards me," she blurted out. "It's not what you think. He has to do this because he's been caught with other girls before." Confusion and anger bubbling inside me, I demanded to know what she was talking about. She explained that he always conducts business in hotel rooms and that there was no physical contact between them. My instinct told me to kick her out of my car, and without a second thought, I did just that. Driving away, I could feel her staring at my back as my phone began ringing incessantly. After ignoring it for some time, I finally answered and warned her that even one lie would result in me hanging up. Somewhat hesitantly, she admitted that they had kissed once about 5 months ago, but insisted it was a mistake that meant nothing. When pressed further about their meetings in hotels, she reluctantly revealed that it had happened about 10 times over the last 9 months. My suspicions confirmed, I then asked her what she did on that Tuesday, and immediately sensed her defensiveness on the other end of the line. Despite her claims of being at work all day until a work dinner, I called her out as a liar before ending the call abruptly. As I loaded my car with all of my belongings, my dog happily wagging his tail in the back seat, she appeared at our house. Standing in the driveway, she refused to budge until I agreed to talk to her. Tears streamed down her face as she apologized and begged for forgiveness. It was a chaotic scene, filled with her hysterics and my own confusion. That day, I packed up and left without looking back. Since then, we have met a few times for her to try and explain herself. But every time it's my turn to ask questions and seek clarity, she grows defensive and shuts down. She even goes so far as to say that discussing these issues might harm our relationship. And then there are the lies, small, inconsequential details that she continues to fabricate despite being caught in them. When I confront her, she accuses me of setting traps by asking questions I already know the answers to. Through it all, she maintains that there was never anything romantic between us. Her words weighed heavily on me as she spoke out her friendship with this man. She emphasized how close they had become and how he had helped her immensely with her career. But then she admitted that their conversations often turned inappropriate, veering into the territory of our marital issues. My heart sank as she confessed to texting him and later deleting the messages, claiming they were not romantic but could be perceived as flirting. Amidst all of this, she revealed that she had been struggling with depression for a long time, and he was able to talk her out of those dark feelings and uplift her in her work. I felt like I was being manipulated, my mind spinning in circles, trying to process what she was saying. A part of me desperately wanted to believe her, clinging on to any hope that our relationship could be salvaged. But deep down, I knew the truth would only hurt more. Was I going crazy? Did I truly want to uncover the truth, or was I just too afraid to face it? As much as I wanted answers, I couldn't see a way forward from the facts I already knew. Perhaps it didn't even matter anymore. Maybe I was slowly losing my grip on reality, consumed by doubts and confusion. Update number 1. The passage of time has done little to ease the tension between us since D-Day. In a vulnerable moment, I turned to her last night for some semblance of honesty and reassurance, but what I got were just crumbs of half-truths. As much as it pains me, I asked if she had been in contact with the other man over the past month. She replied that he still doesn't know about my discovery on D-Day, and that she hasn't discussed our situation with him because it's a matter within our marriage, not involving him. When I pressed further, asking if she had cut off all non-work related communication with him, her response was infuriating. I'm tapering down. Tapering down? My anger boiled over at this weak excuse. And then she lied about something insignificant, but it was enough to push me over the edge. I confronted her about it, and could see through her falsehoods with 100% certainty. Yet, she continued to deny it and even resorted to yelling in defiance. At that moment, I knew there was yet another unresolved issue in this ongoing saga of betrayal and heartache. Update number 2. With a heavy heart, I listened to the voice recorder hidden in my own home. My wife's words laced with excitement as she spoke to the other man she was tapering off social communication with. Over the course of 2 phone calls, they spent well over an hour on the line, their voices mingling and intertwining in ways that made my stomach turn. The recorder soon died in the afternoon, leaving me to imagine what else they could have said in the evening. But I didn't need to imagine too much. Even from the short snippets I heard, it was clear that they were discussing things they shouldn't have been. The state of our marriage, using secret phone apps to hide their conversations, and even mocking me for being late for breakfast. And amidst all of this, my wife's laugh rang out like a bell, a sound I hadn't heard since we first started dating. Confronting her about it only led to partial admissions and denials. But at this point, I didn't care anymore. This morning, I'm meeting the divorce lawyer. It's not how I imagined my marriage would end, but listening to those tapes made it clear that this is no longer a marriage worth fighting for. Update number 3. For the past 2 weeks, I have refused all contact with my wife. Despite her attempts to reach out, I remained firm in my decision. However, a few days ago, she sent me a text that shook me to my core. She asked if we could talk and, against my better judgment, I agreed. But I set one condition: she had to confess everything. At first, she tried to deny any wrongdoing and accused me of wiretapping her phone. I let her believe it, hoping it would push her towards the truth. Eventually, she relented and admitted that her relationship with the other man was not only emotional, but also sexual. My heart felt like it was being crushed as she told me it had been going on for 6 months, half a year of deceit and betrayal. She confessed that she had gone so far as to purchase a hotel room just 1 day before our anniversary to be with him. And even after I caught her red-handed, she continued talking to him and seeking his advice on how to handle my questions. It was clear that she had no intention of stopping until I forced her hand. It took 6 agonizing weeks for her to finally come clean, but by then the damage was already done. The trust and love that once bound us together were now shattered into a million irreparable pieces. All because of her selfishness and deceitful actions. Yet, despite all this pain and devastation, she now claims she wants to work on our marriage. I cannot help but wonder if her confession is only due to my persistence, or if she truly has a change of heart. Either way, the damage done during those 6 weeks of lies and betrayal may be too much for us to ever overcome. Final update. Before I continue, I want to stress this. If you find yourself in a similar situation and are even remotely considering ending your life, please don't. Trust me when I say that you would be missing out on the greatest moments of your life. It may seem impossible to see when you're overwhelmed by the darkness, but take it from someone who's been there. Hold on and keep fighting for this precious life. Now onto the update. We finalized our divorce. It was a decision that took time for me to make, and I regret wasting that time now. My ex-wife wanted us to stay together, although why is still a mystery to me. Through her lies and gaslighting, any chance of reconciliation was shattered. This has been the toughest experience of my life so far. During our marriage, I was fully committed and invested. Of course, I wasn't perfect, but I loved my wife with every fiber of my being and wanted nothing more than to spend eternity with her. I always put her happiness above my own and did everything in my power to make her smile. Looking back, maybe that was part of the problem. sacrificing too much of myself for someone who never truly appreciated it. Now that I have escaped the clutches of that toxic relationship, I can finally see it for what it truly was. A narcissistic abuser who drained every ounce of energy and self-worth from an inherently good person. Our marriage was a one-sided affair, with me constantly giving and my partner constantly taking more than I could ever give. By the end of our union, I had been convinced that I was nothing but a worthless partner. My ex-wife tore down everything about me. My profession, my personality, even my physical appearance, all in an effort to maintain control over me. However, since our divorce, I have experienced immense personal growth and my business has flourished. I am now able to attract and date women who I had thought were way out of my league. It's almost surreal to think that I once believed myself to be unattractive thanks to the constant belittling from my ex-wife. But now, even much younger and stunning women approach me at bars. In fact, I have been fortunate enough to be in several wonderful relationships with incredible women. While these relationships did not last due to compatibility issues, they served as a stark contrast to just how terrible of a partner my ex-wife truly was. The thought of my ex-wife rarely crosses my mind these days, and we have no contact whatsoever. Our divorce proceedings turned ugly when she accused me of taking too much of the money, even though I purposefully requested less than 50% in order to keep things amicable and preserve our shared businesses and retirement funds. Can you believe it? She had cheated on me, yet had the audacity to be upset about the amount of money I was taking. This solidified my decision to leave her and move on as quickly as possible, away from all of this toxic negativity. As the divorce was finalized, I couldn't help but feel a sense of relief. Many of my friends chose to support me, and for that I am grateful. But there were also those who sided with my ex-partner, and truthfully, I don't regret losing their friendship. They made it easy for me to move on and leave them behind. However, one of the toughest parts of this whole ordeal was losing my in-laws. I had grown to love them like family, but I understand why they are no longer a part of my life. In an effort to be honest and transparent, I reached out to my partner's affair partner's wife multiple times. Though she never responded, I can only assume she knows the full story now. As much as it hurts, I will respect her choice to not engage with me. The loss of these relationships weighs heavily on me, but I know it was necessary for my own well-being and growth. If you find yourself caught in the grips of this nightmare, I have some advice for you. First and foremost, distance yourself from the situation. This is crucial for being able to think clearly and not get manipulated by gaslighting. Seek professional help. Therapy was my lifeline during this time and has made me stronger than ever before. Surround yourself with loved ones. Lean on them for support whenever possible. Make sure to prioritize your health. Go to the gym. Limit drug and alcohol. Soak up some vitamin D outside and try to get enough sleep. Although there were many dark days following D-Day, I can honestly say that this has been the best time of my life. Each day brings a sense of genuine happiness and contentment. If you're going through a similar experience and need advice from someone who has been through it, don't hesitate to reach out to me. And finally, a huge thank you to everyone in this community who supported me during my struggles. Cheers to each and every one of you. Imagine living a life straight out of a fairy tale, with high school sweethearts turning into lifelong partners and a family that feels like the epitome of happiness. Now, picture that fairy tale crumbling before your eyes, not because of a singular moment of betrayal, but through a revelation that shakes the very foundation of your identity and family. In today's video, we dive into a journey of love, betrayal, and the quest for truth. A story that begins with an ancestry test and leads to questions that challenge the essence of familial bonds. This isn't just a narrative of discovering secrets. It's about confronting the reality of a life you thought you knew, and the lengths one might go to preserve or rebuild what was once considered unbreakable. Join me as we explore the complexities of love, trust, and forgiveness in a situation where the usual advice seems inadequate. This is more than just my story. It's a call to all who faced unimaginable revelations and stood at the crossroads of decision. How do you navigate a path you never thought you'd have to walk? Let's delve into this together. I am not really in the best state of mind. My world has been turned upside down over the last couple of weeks. I met my wife when we were in high school, and we married in college. We have 5 beautiful children together. I consider them a total blessing regardless of what I'm about to bring up. Until a couple of weeks ago, I thought that we had the perfect marriage. We were typical high school sweethearts. We go out together, we never fight. I feel like I've done everything a loving husband should do. I am saying this not to make myself out as the perfect husband. For example, my work has always meant I work long hours and maybe haven't always been there when she needed me, but I want to stress that I've never felt our marriage was in any trouble. And never in a million years would I ever have suspected my wife of being disloyal. She's always done everything she could to support me and take care of our children. Now, my eldest daughter recently had an ancestry test done. The results of the ancestry test strongly suggested I was not her father. She confided this to me privately, showing me the results, and I could tell she was visibly upset by this. Of course, the first thing I did was reassure her that no matter what, she's my daughter and I'll always love her unconditionally. But secondly, the two of us decided to get an official paternity test since the ancestry tests are not completely reliable. It comes back, and I am indeed not her biological father. This news really broke me. I'm ashamed to say I broke down tears in front of my daughter. The combination of finding out about my wife's infidelity and how upset I was making my daughter by how I was reacting. I really wish I had kept it in for her sake, but I didn't. Following this, I asked my other children, except my youngest, to come and see me. I wanted to know the extent of my wife's infidelity. If it was a one-off, I could maybe work past it, especially given how long ago it would be. However, I didn't want to tell my youngest as she is still in school, a teenager, and really, I didn't think it was appropriate to tell her yet. We told the other 3 what had happened. I reassured them that I love them unconditionally and that I'll always be their dad, but that I need to know how long this has been going on. God, I can't begin to explain how touching their reaction was. They didn't care. I wasn't their biological father. They were just upset at how heartbroken I was. I feel like the only thing that has kept me going these last couple of weeks is their unwavering support. So, we have paternity tests for each of the 3 done. Not only are none of them my biological children, but together 4 of my children have 3 different fathers, which somehow made worse. It's like she wasn't just having an ongoing affair, she was having multiple. I can't explain how this makes it worse, but it just does. I confront my wife with this, expecting her to confess and beg for forgiveness. She doesn't confess. She doesn't even take it seriously. She says the tests must be flawed. All 4. How the hell am I supposed to take that seriously? I keep bringing it up, and she keeps brushing it off, getting progressively more annoyed at me. When I bring it up, she will try and trip me with, "We've been together since high school. Do you seriously not trust me?" etc. But how am I supposed to trust her in the face of such overwhelming evidence? Now that I have rambled and explained what has happened, I guess let me ask a few direct questions for advice. Can I reassure my children this doesn't change anything between us? I feel like the way I have reacted, total breakdowns, have made them second guess this despite how many times I reassure them. How do I handle my youngest daughter? I feel like our marriage is beyond saving, and I will need to tell my daughter something. I don't want her to know the truth until she's older, but I also don't want my wife lying and making me out to be the villain. Is there any way at all, you think I could or should save my marriage? I've been with my wife my entire life. It's almost impossible to see a life without her. I know that the answer should be a clear-cut leave her, but we have 5 kids together. If there's anything that can be done to save our marriage, I want to consider it seriously. Update number 1. Thanks so much to everyone for all the support and advice. From the advice, I've decided to the following things. Get a second tests, just in case some freak accident has occurred. Confront my wife with all 4 of my older children present. Tell my youngest about the situation. Ask her if she wants to have a paternity test. It will be entirely her decision. I'm 100% going to get some form of therapy. My mental state has really been deteriorating over the last couple of weeks, and I owe it to my kids to hold it together. Depending on whether my wife tells the truth and what her explanation is, I have not ruled out some form of counseling. But at the moment, I think divorce is inevitable unless she changes her attitude drastically. I will contact a lawyer and prepare for divorce if it comes to that. I'd like to thank all of you for the time you took to express your support and share advice. Update number 2. I guess I should clarify some things that people have been asking. Question 1. How did the ancestry results suggest I wasn't her father? My family is entirely Irish. No relatives outside of Ireland other than my immediate family, and I even have the stereotypical red hair. My daughter's ancestry results showed nothing from the British Isles or Western Europe. That's what set off alarm bells, but it's by no means conclusive, hence the paternity tests. Question 2. Which 2 children share the same father? My 2 eldest daughters share the same father. Question 3. How did your wife conceive your children? Our eldest daughter was not planned. All the others were planned. Each time we conceived several months after we started trying. Our first 3 planned children were both our ideas, while she pressured me into having our youngest. She was in her late 30s and wanted one last child before it was too late, and eventually I agreed. She was conceived several months after we started trying too. Question 4. Are you infertile? I don't know. I've never had a fertility test done. But the fact that none of our planned children are mine makes me think that I might be. I will have a fertility test as soon as possible. Update number 3. I have been debating whether or not to post an update because nothing was ever resolved. I decided I would post it here in case anyone is still waiting for one. I apologize for not updating early when I promised I would. My kids and I confronted their mother shortly after making that Reddit post. It really didn't go well. I think the prospect that no one believed her finally hit home. She completely broke down and apologized profusely. But she refused to explain herself, or anything that would give me peace of mind. For the next few weeks, we barely said a word to each other. I was hoping she was thinking it over, and I expected her to eventually sit me down and explain herself. I figured she was so far deep in a lie that got out control, she needed time to think things over. Nope. I came home one evening to find she had committed suicide by overdosing. So I lost the love of my life, and I'll never know what mistakes she had made. I really wish I could go back in time and forget about it all. Whatever mistake she made, I honestly wanted to work through it. Now, I'm just riddled with guilt that I pressed her for an answer. The worst part of this entire ordeal was watching my kids work so hard to keep me together after having lost their mother. Anyway, please tell your family you love them while you have the chance. We've been married for around 3 years, and we recently moved across the country so my wife could attend grad school. I found a career job in the new location and have been financially supporting us for the most part. She's been on her phone a lot more over the last few months. I've asked a few times who she's texting all the time, and she says it's just a friend from school. When I ask more questions, she gets defensive. I wasn't sure what else to do, so unfortunately, I took a peek through her phone. I found out she's been texting some guy from her school, all day, every day and night. The texts last from like 7 a.m. to 12 a.m. The texts seem innocent overall, nothing sexual or anything, but there are a few things bothering me. I went all the way to the beginning of the thread. The first issue is that this texting started when my wife asked a friend for this guy's number and then started texting him randomly. Next, she is always the one to text him first, and she double texts him every single time he stops responding. I wish I was exaggerating. I've also never met this guy, don't know how old he is, I don't know what he looks like. Although the conversations seem innocent, it seems like she randomly texts him just to start a conversation, often tells him about her school drama, etc. It also seems like they spend lots of time at school together, playing some card games. She has even left dinner with me early to go back to school and play cards with him. She invites him to spend one-on-one time, whether it's at school, at the bar, or wherever. When her parents came into town, she even invited this guy to the bar with her and her parents. Further, she baked cookies for this guy. She loves to bake, and I remember her one day baking a type of cookies she had never baked before. While I assumed she was baking them for a party she was going to that night, the texts showed me that she baked them just for this guy. What makes it worse is the fact that she went out of her way to do it. I had the car that night, so she walked to the store in the rain to get the ingredients. Then she baked the cookies and brought them over to his apartment, where she stayed for 2 hours. She did go to the party afterward, but only stayed for a few minutes to say hi to a few people and left. One thing I've been a bit insecure about is the fact that my profession doesn't pay that great. She lived a very privileged lifestyle through her parents before meeting me. She is in grad school for a profession that generally pays significantly more than mine, like 5 times more than what I make. She will make more in her summer internship than I make in a year. This guy she is texting is in the same profession. Reading these messages made me feel sick to my stomach. I just wanted to post here to see if this sounds fishy to anyone else. I'm not sure if anything physical has happened, but she has crossed some boundaries either way. The meetup with the parents never actually happened. She did try and get him to go to the bar, but the plan fell through. Also, in reading the texts, it seems like the guy tried to keep her at arm's length at first, keeping conversations short and not engaging too much. But over time, started to become much more receptive and interested in actually talking. This has all happened over the course of about 5 to 6 months. Update number 1. I was able to have a conversation with guy she's been texting. I got his number off her phone and just texted him saying, "Hey, this is husband. I caught wind of what's been going on between you two and just wanted to see if you'd be willing to be honest with me about what has happened." He responded pretty quickly and was willing to meet with me for lunch in a public place, so we met. He's 23 and very good looking, I'll give him that. When we met for lunch, I started the conversation by asking him if he could give me his perspective on what's been happening between him and my wife. He started with a disclaimer that nothing physical had happened between them, and honestly, I believe him. He seems like a decent guy. He told me he respected me and never wanted to get involved with a married woman, and he started the story from the very beginning. I'll tell it as if he were telling it. It goes like this. I approached her at the beginning of school because I found her attractive. I don't remember whether she was wearing a wedding ring. I'm not used to checking for that, because most people my age generally aren't married. But when I approached her, she seemed very interested, absolutely zero indication she may have been in a relationship. When she found out I had a post-graduation job offer, she was overly congratulatory. After talking to her more over the next few days, I asked for her Instagram. She seemed hesitant to give, but she gave me her Instagram anyway. When I followed her, I immediately realized she was married. I was floored due to her behavior, but I decided to fall way back. After falling back, I heard from some mutual friends that she seemed to be a bit offended that I stopped talking to her after finding out she was married. I found that a bit strange, but whatever. Some drama transpired, so I went out of my way to avoid her for around a month or so. But after a while, I felt the beef was a waste of my time. So, I decided to give her a compliment to kinda communicate that I don't mind being cordial with her. She seemed ecstatic about the compliment, and I heard from mutual friends that she was going around telling people that we were friends again. Found that strange also. I just wanted to be cordial. Anyway, we made up, and shortly thereafter, I got a random text message from her telling me that she got my number from someone else, the third thing I found strange. The texts started pretty infrequent, but gradually progressed to her texting me every day, double texting and all. She even seemed really pressed about me meeting her parents when they came into town. Still am not sure what that was even about, but I dodged the invite and it never happened. At this point, it seemed she was very interested in me, but I wasn't very responsive over text because she is married. Over time, however, my walls broke down slowly because I did enjoy the attention. She's inviting me to hang out one-on-one, playing cards with me, offering me to bake cookies, etc. She told me how upset she was over the fact that apparently you two had planned a trip for Thanksgiving to see her friends, but didn't end up going because of a tight budget. She also told me that she would sleep on the couch a lot. We didn't talk much over final exams due to being busy, and we didn't really talk much over winter break. However, at the start of this new semester, the texting all day every day and double texting came back in full force. At this point, I kind of felt like she actually liked me and was pursuing me, but again, I enjoyed the attention. She baked me the cookies the first week of school, brought them over, and sat on my bed for 2 hours, but nothing physical happened. She honestly didn't seem interested in sex at all, even though I kinda wanted it to happen at that point. But here we are now. She still texts me every day, and honestly, it has become more frequent than ever before. That's the end of the story. This seems pretty consistent with the messages I read. I don't know what to think of this, but it kinda seems like she's playing the long game with him in order to get him to fall in love with her so she can leave me. I appreciate the guy's willingness to meet with me, and honestly, I believe what he is telling me. Seems like this is beyond point of no return. I still plan on talking to her tomorrow, but I think this is it for me. I don't think there's really anything she can say that will change my mind at this point. It's over. Update number 2. I talked with her yesterday, and it's over, as crazy as it is. The guy actually didn't give her any heads up that we met, which I appreciated. Basically, I sat her at the dining room table and started by telling her that I heard what was going on between her and the new boy toy. When she asked what I was talking about, I kinda just went through all the highlights of the emotional affair. Highlighting the cookie situation, meeting the parents, incessant texting, disguising him as just a friend, etc. When I told her that it seemed to me as if she was obsessed with the guy, maybe even in love with him, and seemingly planning for my replacement, she immediately broke down crying. I almost felt bad, but kinda didn't at the same time. She then told me that she only did it because she liked the attention and nothing more, and that she would cut him off immediately. I shook my head. She offered to find a couples therapist while still belligerently crying, and I told her it seemed like we are past that point already. Didn't really care whether she slept with the guy or not. This emotional situation was enough for me. Told her I'll be contacting an attorney this week and that she should do the same, and I walked out the door with her chasing me. I didn't even have anywhere to go, but I needed to just leave before she tried to convince me any further to stay. I didn't want to hear any bullshit. I received dozens of calls and texts while I was gone, and when I came back, she just seemed devastated still. Got calls from her parents today as well, which I ignored. I haven't kicked her out of the house or anything. Not really sure what I want to do about that yet. I don't want her to be this guy or anyone else's burden. I'm just feeling kinda lost at this point. It's truly wild how abruptly this just ended after all this time. I moved to this state solely to support her, and now I'm just here. The majority of my friends and family are across the country. Maybe I should have seen the writing on the wall. Our relationship wasn't perfect. I've been pretty busy over the last year or so with work. It seems like she took every chance she could to go to every single school party she could without even inviting me 95% of the time. She was never home, and every time I asked any questions, she would chalk it up to studying. How could I really argue with that when she's in graduate school? It may not be entirely her fault, but I'm glad I'm getting out of this before it got any worse. 3 years isn't a crazy amount of time, and now it's time to go find myself again. This does suck, though. Thank you all for your support. It really has helped me come to terms with this ending. And that brings us to the end of this journey, a chapter of my life that I never expected to share so publicly. Through the twists and turns, the pain and the revelations, there's a silver lining that I've come to realize. Life is unpredictable, and relationships are even more so. But it's through our most challenging moments that we grow, learn about ourselves, and discover our resilience. This experience has taught me the importance of communication, trust, and understanding in relationships. It's also shown me that sometimes letting go is the bravest decision we can make, not because we've given up, but because we understand our worth and the value of our peace. To anyone out there going through a tough time, remember, you're not alone. It's okay to seek help, to talk about your feelings, and most importantly, to put yourself first. The road ahead may seem daunting, but with each step, you're moving closer to a new beginning, a fresh start filled with hope and possibilities. It's been a therapeutic journey, and I'm looking forward to what the future holds. Remember, every ending is just the start of something new. Here's to finding ourselves, to new adventures, and to a future where we're stronger and wiser. Until next time, take care of yourselves, and if you haven't subscribed yet, please do. It helps a lot. I'm 39 now, but let's rewind a bit to when my life took a turn I never expected. I was married to this woman, my partner of 17 years, and we've built a life together for 14 of those years. Then, like a bolt out of the blue, I discovered she was cheating on me. And not just with anyone, but with a district manager at Aramark Refreshments. This had been going on for about 2 years. But hold on, before we dive into that mess, there's a backstory you need to hear to understand the whole picture. It might even help you decide if her actions were justified, or if it was merely me settling a debt I never knew I owed. It was back in 2012 when the first crack appeared. My wife needed to have her tonsils removed, so we headed to the hospital. As they wheeled her into the surgery room, they handed me her belongings, including her phone. It wouldn't stop buzzing. Driven by a gut feeling, I checked it, only to find a string of inappropriate emails with another man from her work. They were deep in it, referencing 50 Shades of Grey, calling him her Christian Grey, a nickname I thought was reserved for me. I was livid, but there was no chance for a confrontation. She couldn't even talk after the surgery. So, on the drive home, with a mix of anger and desperation, I handed her a piece of paper and a pen. I needed answers. Her reply, scribbled in shaky handwriting, was that it was nothing but flirting. I packed a briefcase with clothes for me and our 2-year-old, and we left for Arizona. I needed space, to think, to breathe, to consult with my support team, my best friend and his wife. When we returned, she told me she had deleted her email account, promising it was a one-time mistake that wouldn't happen again. But here we are, years later, and the past seems like a prelude to a much more complicated present. Time moved on, but I couldn't shake off the betrayal. It was like a shadow over our lives, a constant reminder of a trust broken. In my heart, I felt the only way past it was to even the score. It wasn't something I planned, but then life threw me into the path of a client who seemed to notice me in a way I hadn't felt noticed in years. We started texting, a harmless thing at first, or so I told myself. My wife, meanwhile, was living her life, going out with her friends, seemingly unbothered by our strained relationship. Taking these opportunities, I'd leave our son with my mom and sneak off to see this woman. What began as an affair slowly transformed into something deeper. I found myself in love with her. About 9 months into this whirlwind, she dropped a bombshell on me. She was pregnant. The first thing that popped into my head was Usher's confessions. It felt like a sign, a push towards coming clean. So I did. I confessed everything to my wife, half expecting the world to end. But her reaction was nothing like I expected. She said she had sensed something was off and believed that God had been preparing her for this moment. When I told her I wanted a divorce to start anew with this other woman, she suggested an alternative I hadn't considered. She believed we could fix things, that through more church visits and therapy with our pastor, we could heal and be happy again. How could I refuse her offer? It was a plea for redemption, for the life we had built together. But this left me with the heartbreaking task of telling the other woman, the one carrying my child, that the future we had dreamt of together was not going to happen. A few months flew by and life threw me another curveball. My wife was pregnant. Our timelines barely 3 months apart from the affair partner's pregnancy. My wife, perhaps seeking to cement her place in my heart over the other woman, pushed for us to have another child together. By December 2014, my life had transformed dramatically. I went from being a father of 1 to a father of 3 in what felt like the blink of an eye. Navigating this new reality was chaotic, to say the least, but I committed to being there for all my children, no matter what. Fast forward to the present, and despite the roller coaster my wife and I have been through, there's something beautiful in the way we've managed to raise our kids. I've learned a lot about forgiveness, love, and the importance of being faithful. I've dedicated myself to rebuilding our relationship, believing we were on the right path and enjoying the journey of parenting together. We both travel for work occasionally, maintaining our professional lives alongside our personal ones. Yet, just when I thought we had weathered the worst of the storm, I uncovered a painful truth. For the last 2 years, my wife has been having an affair with her boss. Every work event, every supposed overtime, every business trip to places like San Diego or Portland during Valentine's. She wasn't alone. He was there, providing the warmth I thought was reserved for me, behind the closed doors of hotel rooms. This revelation shattered the peace and progress I thought we had made. It made me question everything all over again. The trust I thought we were rebuilding, and the future I envisioned for us and our beautiful children. The moment I discovered my wife's affair was like a scene straight out of a movie, only it was my life unraveling before my eyes. It started innocently enough. She went out for drinks after work, and I texted her, asking when she'd be home. She said 9 p.m., but the clock ticked past without any sign of her. Calls went unanswered, only to receive a text later. It was a photo from her, supposedly showing she was still with her colleagues, just grabbing a few more drinks. Something felt off. Why text and not call back? Curiosity got the better of me, and I zoomed into the photo, spotting a napkin that revealed where they were. Driven by a mix of concern and suspicion, I made the 45-minute drive to find her. There she was, not with her colleagues, but with her boss, his arm around her. Their shock at seeing me was palpable. She hurried off by, and my sarcastic retort about just arriving did nothing to cut the tension. She insisted she was just leaving, but I stayed back with her boss, who was visibly drunk and surprisingly open. He lamented his own marriage woes, unaware of the irony as he spoke to the husband of his affair partner. When he mentioned the topic of cheating, I played along, saying I hadn't caught my wife, but wouldn't react well if I did. Meanwhile, my wife kept calling him, a detail that struck me as odd. After he abruptly left, presumably for the bathroom, but actually leaving the bar, I returned home, filled with questions. Her excuse that she should have told me he was there too did little to ease my suspicions. It was a friend's suggestion to check our phone records that truly opened my eyes. The extent of their communication, Monday through Friday after work, was laid bare on the phone bills stretching back 2 years. Her explanation was she needed to report end of day numbers to him. It was a flimsy excuse given her non-salaried status and the legal implications of working off the clock. I was determined to uncover the truth. Recording their conversations seemed the only way to get the proof I needed. My heart was heavy with the betrayal, but I knew I couldn't confront her without undeniable evidence of their affair. The methods I used to uncover the truth aren't something I'm keen on sharing, but the outcome was heart-shattering. Among the recordings, one conversation in particular felt like a knife twisting in my gut. She was talking to her cousin, not just about the thrill of the affair, but mocking the very foundation of our life together. She laughed about how naive I was to believe her end-of-day calls were anything but a cover for their rendezvous. They spoke of laying low, convinced they could navigate this deceit with cleverness and caution. Their words laced with the confidence of those who believe they're outsmarting the world. Then there was the conversation between her and her boss, filled with declarations of love and mutual admiration. It wasn't just about the excitement or the secrecy, it was deeper, more personal. They were candid about their feelings, about what they brought to each other's lives. Hearing it firsthand, there was no room for doubt. They were completely entangled in each other's lives, emotionally and physically. Anger, confusion, and a sense of betrayal swirled within me. I contemplated every possible response. Should I expose them to their HR department, pointing out the unprofessional foundation beneath my wife's recent promotion? The thought of revenge was tempting, but I was lost on where to start. In the end, I took a step that felt both radical and necessary. I reached out to his wife. With a bit of detective work and the enthusiastic assistance of a friend who's drawn to drama, I found her on LinkedIn and waited anxiously for her response. When she finally called, it was a conversation filled with shock, validation, and a shared sense of betrayal. We pieced together timelines and discovered the depth of their deceit. Fueled by our mutual pain, we confronted them over a four-way call. Despite the undeniable evidence, they denied everything. It was a stark revelation of their willingness to lie, not just to us, but to themselves and each other, even in the face of irrefutable proof. After all the denials, they finally admitted the truth. Now, I'm standing at a crossroads, questioning every possible outcome. Do I stay for the sake of our children, ensuring they grow up in a united family? Or do I leave, considering my past transgressions paid in full by this betrayal? She's pleading for another chance, her words a mix of regret and promises of fidelity. Yet, I've taken the step to move out, maintaining only the routine of taking our kids to school each morning as a semblance of normalcy. The complexity of her continuing to work under him adds layers of doubt to her assurances that it won't happen again. How can I trust her words when she's allowed another man into her heart, and more, for over 2 years? The betrayal isn't just about the physical act, it's the emotional investment in someone else, a shared life built on lies. The dilemma now is whether there's any foundation left to rebuild on. Or, if this is the sign to start anew, free from the toxicity that seeped into every corner of our marriage. The possibility of keeping the district manager accountable also looms over me. Should his professional life reflect his personal failures? I'm at a point where I need to decide not just for myself, but for my children's future. Is there a way to salvage a relationship from the ruins of deceit, or is it healthier for everyone to part ways? The path to forgiveness seems fraught with the potential for more hurt, yet the idea of a fresh start is equally daunting. If anyone has navigated these treacherous waters and come out the other side with their family intact, your advice would be invaluable. The saying goes that 2 wrongs don't make a right, and I'm living proof of its truth. I'm here, open and searching for guidance on how to proceed from this junction in my life. D-Day was just before Thanksgiving. Right before Christmas, I uncovered a pile of texts between her and her affair partner. These revealed the emotional affair was much deeper than she had initially admitted. I was angry and hurt, so I messaged her affair partner on WhatsApp with a simple message. "Hello, affair partner. It's Hamie, the wayward wife's husband and father of her 2 children. I wanted you to know that there are real human beings on the other side of this equation. Are you as willing to destroy a family as I am to defend it?" I told wayward wife I messaged him, and she freaked out. She immediately messaged him apologizing and told him that I had gone crazy. And also told him that she was sorry he got dragged into the mess. Since then, she deleted WhatsApp and deleted him from Facebook. Cut to today, where we are both in individual counseling and have our first marriage counseling session at the end of the month. We are taking a family trip in 2 weeks. I learned one of her girlfriends will be in the same city, and she plans to hang out with her when we are there. Her friend is a therapist. When she told her I had messaged her affair partner, her therapist friend had told her that I had gone mad. I told her I wasn't exactly excited to hang with this person because I didn't feel like she was a friend to me or our marriage. My wife got super angry and asked me what in the fuck am I talking about? We chatted today, and I explained that this woman was a trigger for me. Knowing that she said I had gone mad was challenging for me. My wife then said, everyone has said the same thing. So here I am, asking a bunch of strangers to validate my behavior and tell me I'm not crazy for messaging her affair partner. Update number 1. At the end of January, I noticed that she was still friends with him on Facebook. it was not acceptable to me and that it was a clear boundary. She said she would unfriend him, and she did. Since then, we've been doing, at least on the surface, great. We are in both individual counseling and marriage counseling. We have been amicable, loving, and kind to one another, including being intimate. It seems that things have been trending in the right direction. At the end of February, I received a notice that my wayward wife had joined WhatsApp again. I calmly and respectfully questioned her if she was speaking to him again, and she adamantly said no. In fact, she said, if I still felt any desire to speak to him, I would be taking steps to end our marriage. She then offered her phone to me. I opened WhatsApp, and it was on the account creation screen, which she hadn't completed. Satisfied that they weren't speaking, we went on to have a lovely week together. This weekend, we went out for a friend's birthday and had a good time. When we got home, she lamented that she would have to go pick up our 15-year-old from a friend's house. I flirtingly said, I'll go pick her up, but in exchange, you have to hang out and listen to music with me when I get back. Her response was oddly angry, and she basically accused me of trying to manipulate her. Taken aback, I told her I was just trying to be playful. I went and picked up our daughter. When I got back home, my wife had already gone to bed. Her behavior reminded me of how she was treating me while she was actively having the affair. Oddly, angry, resentful, confrontational. So, of course, I got suspicious that she was talking to her affair partner again. I opened up our computer and discovered that they had been in contact with each other the entire time and that she never cut off contact with him. In fact, she was literally talking to him on days when we had marriage counseling. I became incensed. The next morning, she sent me a text saying she was sorry. I asked her what she was sorry for, and she said the way she had spoken to me the night before. She then came into the bedroom and playfully pretended to give me a flying elbow. She then apologized again, and I told her not to worry about it, because it really didn't matter. She asked what I meant, and I told her that I knew she was still speaking to her affair partner. She immediately denied it. No, I'm not. I swear, we aren't talking at all. At this point, I said, are you really going to lie about it? I have the evidence. Incredulously, she said, yes, show me. I haven't been speaking to him. So, I pulled out my evidence. It was dozens and dozens of email notifications telling her that a affair partner had sent her a message on Facebook Messenger and held it up for her to see. Her face went slack and she said, okay, I have been. At this point, I lost my cool and yelled. I'm not proud of it. I've yelled in anger maybe 3 times in my 48-year-old life. I said, how can you continue to be so effing selfish? Why are you actively hurting me and the kids? What in the actual is wrong with you? She just kept saying, okay, as she walked out of the room. It was at that point that I saw our 8-year-old was in the hallway and had heard me yelling. I felt and continue to feel awful about it. If I could take it back, I would. She then left the house and sent me a text saying, I accept responsibility for my actions, but you can never do that in front of our son again. I told her to spare me the lecture. The way I see it, it's almost as if someone is stabbing me, and I scream, why are you stabbing me? Stop stabbing me! And then the stabber goes on to lecture me about scaring the kids with my screaming. If you don't want me to scream, don't fucking stab me. So, I feel like all of our work in progress has been a complete sham. Not only has she never stopped talking to him, but she lied to the marriage counselor when he asked if she was still having the affair. When I pointed out that she lied to him, she said this, I didn't lie to him. He asked if I was still having the affair. I said no, he didn't ask me if I was still talking to him. At this point, I said, there can be no therapy when you actively lie to the therapist. and asked her to stop talking to me. I then reached out to both her mother and father directly. I told them that because she continues to lie and be in contact with her affair partner, that I have no choice but to file for divorce. Not because I want to divorce her, but because I am trying to get her to snap out of the affair fog and gain an understanding of what is truly at stake. I explained the depth of her affair and offered to provide evidence should they feel they needed to see it. Both expressed extensive remorse, shock, and disgust at her actions. I promised them explicitly that I would not use the children to punish my wayward wife, nor would I prevent them from seeing them. Afterward, I told my wife that I had told her parents everything. She lost her shit with a big, "How dare you?" She then said respectfully, "I am asking you to stop talking to my parents." To which I replied, "I will show you the same respect you and the affair partner you continue to show me." She told me she owed me no further explanations and said that she was going to speak to a lawyer. I replied with a curt, "I hope they are good." I had encouraged her to speak with a lawyer back in November. She never did, so on some level, I'm actually glad. We have not spoken directly since. I have since scheduled an emergency couples counseling session tomorrow at 3 p.m. She has agreed to attend it. I don't know what I hope to get out of it. Perhaps just hearing her admit it in front of him will help me deal with it. Update number 2. The counselor asked what was going on, and I said it would be best if wayward wife explained. She admitted she never stopped contact with her affair partner and had been lying about it. She said she understood how painful it must be for me, etc. The therapist asked me how I was feeling. I broke down. I said I'm tired of being abused and that this was a hard boundary for me, that I will no longer allow myself to be manipulated. At the end of the counseling session, Dubiou said she refused to block the affair partner. "He's my friend. We've known each other forever. I'm not going to block him because we aren't talking about anything romantic." I told her this was unacceptable to me, and I refused to be in a marriage with a third party. The therapist encouraged her to hear what I was saying and what I needed. He also encouraged me to be careful about what I am saying if I'm not willing to follow through. The session ended with the agreement that we would reconnect the next day and discuss after having some time to reflect. The next day, she again refused to block him and suggested separation. I said the only way I would agree to separate if it comes with a contract that she will not contact him for the duration. Otherwise, it's just a charade and delaying the inevitable. The alternative is divorce. She said she needed a few days to reflect. At the end of the conversation, she said she may just delete Facebook. I have a call into my attorney for another consultation. I have also found a law firm here that specializes in mediated divorces and have suggested we have a consult with them. I had a meeting with my therapist the next day. She said, "Wow, at least she's being honest. I know it's not what you want to hear, but she's also not lying." Update number 3. A lot has happened over the past 2 months. After my last post, I had a long consultation with a top-rated divorce attorney. We discussed the different approaches to filing we could take, down to the level of the best way to have her served. I had a couples counseling session scheduled for the next day. I told the lawyer that I wanted to hold off on officially pulling the trigger until after that session. I went into the session fully expecting to hear that she still wouldn't block the affair partner, thus cementing my decision to file. You can imagine my surprise when she announced in the session that she had decided she wanted to work on things between us and then committed to deleting Facebook and Messenger. This came as a surprise. I had done a lot of weekly work with my individual counseling and felt I was emotionally ready to move forward with the process. I had basically already gone through the emotional hurdles to get to that point, only to have them upended by her decision. She went from refusing to block him to committing to no contact with him and expressing that she wanted to actively work on things. I asked her what brought about the sudden change of heart. She said, "I don't know. Just a feeling, I guess." So with that, I told the lawyer to stand down while we moved forward with couples and individual counseling. Much to my surprise, she kept her word and deleted Facebook and Messenger. This is the first time I saw action that backed up her words. I'm not fooling myself. I know that she can still speak to this guy in any number of ways. But it was, at least on some level, symbolic. She said she understood how much her actions have hurt me, and openly wondered how I can even trust her again. I told her that trust is earned in drops and lost in buckets. The only way to regain my trust is through action instead of words like deleting Facebook. About a month ago, we traveled to the East Coast with our kids to attend her half-sister's wedding. There was initially a lot of anxiety about this because our parents live about an hour from each other. And if we are seeing one grandparent, we need to go see the others. And she was really nervous about seeing my parents. "It's obviously going to be very uncomfortable. I'm not sure I can do it," she said. I reached out to my parents and told them that regardless of how they felt about her and her actions, we are currently committed to working on things, and I would appreciate it if they did their best to be kind to her during our visit. They understood my request and agreed to do so. We aren't happy with the decisions she's been making, but she's our daughter and we still love her, they said. They were very kind to her during the visit, and she expressed in counseling how much that had meant to her. During the trip, our physical intimacy was non-existent due to traveling with the kids. And when she got her period on the last day of the trip, it put a damper on near-term plans of physically connecting when we got back. When being intimate didn't materialize over the next 2 weeks, I expressed my frustration. I stated clearly that I was unwilling to go back to a marriage where we weren't physically intimate on a regular basis. For me, that's once a week at a minimum. I refuse to fall back into old habits, and since at least some component of her emotional fare is being blamed on her need to feel desired, this seems like a critical thing that we need to work on. The irony in all of this is that I have always had the higher drive. So, I don't know if it's that she wanted to feel desired as much as she wanted to feel desired by someone who isn't me, but that's a topic of its own. A few days after that chat, I was about to hop in the shower and feeling a little frisky. I texted her and told me she should come to meet me. She did, and things escalated quickly, coming to a screeching halt when our son started knocking on the door, asking if I knew where Mom was. We ended up reconvening that night, and it was great. Fast forward to last week's couple session. I told the therapist that I had expressed my intimacy needs to her, and that for me, it is a critical part of our path forward. He's Gottman trained and a sex therapist as well, and ended up giving us some intimacy homework. We are both laughing about the awkward specifics, but have committed to doing it. There is still a lot to do regarding the unpacking of how our relationship ended up in this spot and whether reconciliation is even possible. To that end, we have gone from couples counseling every 2 weeks to weekly because I want to build and maintain momentum. Life is messy because people are messy. I want to express how thankful I am to this community. The collective stories and struggles have made me feel less alone. Happy to expand on details as there is a lot of stuff I didn't include. Update number 4. Last week, my wayward wife was acting sketchy, protecting her phone. I walked up to her texting last week. She panic closed the screen. She assured me she was not speaking to an emotional affair partner and gave me her phone to prove it. I confirmed she wasn't, but still had that little voice in the back of my head. This is just you being paranoid again. Cut to yesterday, and wayward wife asks if she can meet her girlfriend who is moving out of town for happy hour. I said, sure thing, and she leaves the house at 4. Our 15-year-old daughter needed to be picked up from her friends at 9 p.m. So, at 7 p.m., I text wayward wife and ask what the plan is. I get no reply to my text. I call her twice, no answer. Pop open, find my iPhone, and see she's sitting in the parking lot of a public park. Call her again, no answer. An hour later, and she is still there. So I send a friend to that location to check it out, and sure enough, he finds her making out with some dude in a BMW. I had my friend record a video so that I had undeniable evidence. He sent me the video, and I sent the video to her while she was still in the car with him. I have his license plate. I have his name. It turns out he's an executive of the same level at the same company I work for. An hour later, she replied with clearly the end. She then got out of his car and into her own to pick up our daughter, 30 minutes late. My daughter immediately noticed she wasn't acting normally. After pressuring her to explain what was going on, my wife decided it would be a good idea to tell our 15-year-old everything. I spent most of the night comforting her and biting my tongue while she said how much she hates her mom. This morning, my wife sheepishly slipped into the room and tried to climb into bed to lay with me. I replied with, "Oh hell no," and got up. We have couples therapy tomorrow. My wife announced she was going to write the therapist a letter and would CC me if I like. I said, what's the point? We should just cancel the appointment. She got quiet and said he could be helpful as we figure out the next steps. Anyway, so that's where we are at. Time to give my attorney a $10,000 retainer and move on with my life. I have contacted my daughter's therapist to let her know what's going on and to schedule a visit. Update number 5. My wife decided not to show up for couples counseling today. I went out to speak to her 15 minutes before the meeting to see if she would be joining me, and found her somewhat catatonic and lying on the couch. Are you going to join the call today? No. Are you okay? No. Is there anything I can do for you to help you? No, you are sweet, but no. So I went into couples counseling alone. My wife had written the therapist a very short note explaining that she had met a guy, had been communicating with him for a month and then met up with him and got caught, and therefore will not be attending today's session. The therapist was super concerned for my well-being. He said he was very sorry that we were in this place because he always looked forward to speaking with us. I asked him if he's ever seen something like this before, and he said yes. I asked him if he's seen situations like this turn around, and he said yes, but it's important to note that each of those situations had 2 people who wanted to do the work, and right now you are alone. He is concerned for my wife's well-being. He said it's clear her behavior is erratic and destructive, and she needs help. I asked what I could do to get her help, and he said there is nothing you can do. She needs to hit rock bottom. For some, that's a DUI. For some, it's losing custody of their children. And if you want to help her, you may need to bring the bottom up to meet her. I'm not telling you that you should divorce her. I just want you to understand that things will likely need to get worse for her before they get better. He said I should keep the meeting with him for next week. If my wife decides to show up, he'll be there, without judgment. If I show up alone, he'll be there for me too. I thanked him and then called my daughter's therapist. I told the therapist I wanted to get my daughter in for an emergency session if possible, and she asked what was going on. I gave her the high-level details. She was shocked and then asked if I had time to go into more detail. I spoke to her for about 45 minutes, explaining the whole situation to her, from the emotional affair to the roadside. She was horrified. "I'm so sorry. This is an awful situation, and it's very messy. It is not okay for your wife to do this to your daughter. I'm also incredibly worried about your wife's mental health. I've known all of you for years, and you always seemed like such a loving and happy family. Her behavior is extremely out of character. It's highly erratic and destructive. Do you know if she has any history of mental illness in her immediate family?" my therapist said. I said no, but went on to explain her drinking has increasingly become a point of concern. I also said that I had noticed the annex for our dog had been emptied out. I found the bottle of 30 pills from back in December totally empty in the guest room she's been sleeping in. I also found a bottle of Tenetivan that she was prescribed 2 weeks ago that only had 2 pills left. The point being, pills are missing. This caused her to be even more concerned. My daughter has an appointment with her tomorrow at 11. She wants me to come along and said she will ask my daughter when she wants me in the room. We'll go with whatever is most comfortable for her. I will ask the therapist tomorrow how best to approach the subject with him. He is 9 and mercifully unaware of what is happening because he's too busy collecting hate mail from the adults he's wrecking in Elden Ring. I am taking medical leave at work. I spoke to HR today and got approval to take a month off. I have individual counseling tomorrow afternoon. I have contacted a divorce mediator and scheduled an appointment with the 2 of us for next week. I am trying to avoid being in a situation where I am paying for 2 lawyers to fight each other over my money. I also want to keep things as amicable as possible. I am shutting off my direct deposit and redirecting it to a new bank account, so as to immediately separate finances. I am focusing on my children, myself, and my wife's well-being in that order. There are some more updates that I have not included in this video. I am planning to make a part 2 for this story if people want more updates to it. Comment down if you want me to make a part 2 of this story. Also, make sure to subscribe to my channel and ring the notifications bell